Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 441 for Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. My name is Russell Frost. I have the pleasure and honor of being your host for this week's adventure into advanced tech, mobility, and sustainable energy. Look at this amazing panel that I have spent all day collecting and forcing to... No, wait. They're just nice enough to show up so I don't have to do this shit by myself. Let's be realistic.
We got nowhere else to go. We might as well.
Thank you. No audience better than a prison audience, as they say.
We're all trapped at home.
So let me introduce these folks and we'll get this show on the road. The person to my immediate... God, I hate this mirroring in the video. Let's just say she is my friend from Northern California, Georgia McKenzie.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We've got, of course, our full lineup. And let's see, I have half an alcoholic seltzer in me. So, of course, it's going to be a fun night.
Things are going to get ugly quick. Well, speaking of not ugly, he is looking very well groomed today with some new... glasses, new hair. He is, of course, our friend in the Mid-Atlantic region, Mr. Kacey Green.
How's it going? I did some car mods and made part of a video on it, so that'll be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Somebody's car has a new spoiler. No.
Oh no. Although the spoiler it's got has a dent in it. I didn't know you could dent a plastic spoiler.
What? Wait.
Like hail or something. I don't know. Spoiler alert.
I didn't know you could dent a plastic spoiler either. Apparently,
what's that? How?
Well, if anyone can dent a plastic spoiler, it's Mark Coughlin.
Thank you very much for that fantastic intro, Russell.
My intros suck.
We're just happy that it's warmed up here, and we're sitting around 0 Celsius. We're quite happy with that, and it's not snowing. That's a big plus compared to last week.
I'm not going to turn this on.
No, don't do that.
And looking like a very well-intentioned refugee from the Electric Daisy Festival, my friend in the Pacific Northwest, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Hello, everybody out there in What Drives Us Land. Let's get this show on the road.
Nice coder from every movie.
Yeah. And speaking of Patrick and I kind of came onto a story apparently just about at the same time. I don't know how long this has been floating around, but I just noticed it literally before the show started. Brian Gluckman, and he goes by @BGluckman on Twitter, posted a fascinating thread. So let me read some of his tweets and we will get into this. Apparently, a radio station in Seattle, KUOW, is sending as part of its HD signal a station ID image to be displayed on the head unit. And this happens with HD radio. They display cover art and artist information and all this really fun, cool, embedded information. Wait for it. It gets better. Only KUOW did not include an extension on the file name. So in this particular case, Brian's Mazda, his head unit doesn't know if it's a PNG or a JPG or a vector SFG. Turns out his Mazda unit tries to load the image into the cache. It tries to decode it, but it can't. So it locks up. Continue reading Mr. Gluckman's fascinating tweets. This causes the hardware to silently reboot, which immediately goes back to the previous state of playing KUOW, which tries to decode the image. Guess what happens next, Brian says. Not only did Mazda not perform a sanity check on the file being decoded to determine the file type, they didn't include an internal counter to cause the head unit to reset to factory default, say after 10 resets. So what this is doing is bricking head units, apparently, in at least this particular Mazda. Yay, technology! Now, none of us here are Luddites. None of us here are like, I love all that kind of stuff, but wow.
So that brought up two things for me. The first was, as you were explaining how it worked, that explains to me now why Apple, when we all have a couple podcasts going on here, Apple was extremely strict with how we formed our podcast files and sent them out. And something like this could be why, when you think about all the head units that work with iPod or iTunes or their podcast service, And then the other thing was the 100-mile Mazda CX electric car. It's like, well, in 2022, maybe this is why you can only go 100 miles, so the tow home is not so far. Ooh, low blow.
I thought you were going to say their trip meter only had 2 digits, and beyond that, it just stops.
Y2K.
I don't really have a specific point like about Mazda or a rant about KUOW.
Oh, no, it wasn't just for Mazda, yeah.
Yeah, but it is, I mean, these are the things that we struggle with now. We're not worried about the drunk guys at the plant welding beer bottles into gas tanks on a Friday afternoon, which when I was a wee tot seemed to be what everybody was worried about. I don't know why. Everybody
Bottle
car
caps
made
in
on
the
a
door,
Friday.
in the door jam? So they'd rattle every time you hit a bump? Ooh.
Yeah. So, that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, we're all worried about connected cars, but this isn't even like internet connected. This is radio.
Yeah. It just feels like they're making a mess of something that was basically simple. How do you manage to screw this up? Well, here's how.
And this is one of the things they teach us both in cybersecurity as well as programming, is you need to sanity check your inputs. And if it doesn't work, you drop it right away. Just throw it on the floor. It doesn't matter. Right. And if you're in like mission critical, like this is a hospital bed, then at that point you throw that data on the floor and you call the nurse.
Seems
the worst part about this is the way that HD radio works is there's a header that tells them what the file is, so you don't even need the extension. It was just lazy programming to begin with, to not verify it, depend on it, and then not have a recovery path. So the worst part was when they were telling customers initially when this came out that they were going to have to buy a new connectivity master unit and it cost $1,500. Oh, and by the way, you can't get one because there's supply chain problems.
Right? And then what would be even more funny is if when they plugged it in, it pulled the settings from the rest of the car. It's like, oh yeah, this is your favorite radio station. Let's play it.
And they did the same thing, yeah. But eventually Mazda stepped up and did the right thing, and this will be a goodwill fix. And so customers will not have to pay that $1,500.
Which does lead into my story later.
There you go. Well, thankfully, that story has a somewhat happy ending. Let's go. Let me check my list. Oh, yes, Mr. Mark Coughlin. I don't know where this story is going to go. So Mark has a very interesting story about something going on in Michigan.
Yeah, just outside of Detroit, the state of Michigan has decided that they're going to build a smart road of sorts. They're going to build EV charging infrastructure into a mile of roadway just outside of Metro Detroit. And the reason they're doing this is to, to do a study with some other select companies on how the charging of an electric vehicle from a road base would work, and if it's viable to do this at a larger scale, obviously. So they're taking a mile of road. They're going to be burying cables and lines in order to remotely charge vehicles as they drive over that mile, or in some cases, part of the test road, they're going to have a section for on-street parking. So this is not a highway. This is a regular road, obviously, if there's parking on it. But they plan on trying to see how much it can collect, what kind of modifications are going to be required to the electric cars in order to charge as they're driving, what type of speeds and charging abilities they get at different speeds. So there's a number of things that they're trying to prove here. And of course, being in Detroit, they'll have to deal with weather too. Snow, ice, rain, sleet are all things that they will check for. And they'll probably look at if it electrocutes anyone walking across the road too. So it is going to be interesting to see how this works. Now, I don't know if this is a great idea. This was an idea that was presented many times in the past when electric vehicles were just starting out with extremely small batteries. That, of course, was because batteries were extremely expensive at that point. and luckily we've enjoyed a continual drop in the price of batteries, and electric vehicles have received larger and larger batteries as time has gone on. So this may be an idea that has passed its prime time. Although I'm not opposed to it, just let's do the math. Let's figure out what can be done with it, what it's going to cost. The other thing I caution the state of Michigan, which is contributing $1.9 million for this project, is that you guys have a hard time paving your regular roads. Having driven through Detroit several times and barely hanged on to my car popping all four tires, I would say that it's difficult for them to have a regular road. I don't know how they're going to maintain a chargeable road with the snow plows and such, the potholes that appear. It's going to be a difficult thing, but at least I give them kudos that they're testing this in probably the most intense market to test it in. So as mentioned, you're going to deal with all the different elements and seasons, and cracking of road surfaces and water seeping into cracks and freezing and pushing those cracks larger. This is the place to test it because they get it all. And it's not like they're setting up in Tucson, Arizona, where nothing changes and the roads are flat and smooth and never change. So kudos for that. But I'm not sure if this is an idea that its time has passed. And I thought I'd pass it to the panel to see if what you guys thought about this initiative.
Speaking of road maintenance, my very first time in Detroit, I don't know if I was in my Prius or my Civic Hybrid. In front of me was a Pavement Princess, or what my wife calls a jungle truck. The big wheels and the tires, lift, all that. And the truck was not in front of me anymore. It fell into a pothole. And
Whoa!
yes,
that's not a
It's
pothole.
called a pot cave.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And
Sinkhole.
so thankfully I was able to avoid where the truck went like this, and so if that same truck had run into an electric road, would it have grounded out? Would it have shorted? What would have happened to that?
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah, Mark,
we're going to learn.
You bring
We're
up
gonna
a
learn.
really good point that how much would it? So this is 1 mile, and it's going to cost them a lot of money. How many miles of road are there in the continent? I mean, it's not a scalable solution to do this. Now, maybe if you have, I don't know, like a dockyard, and you want to do something like this, that might work. The thing that I think makes more sense is in Germany they have a section of road where there are overhead lines. Cars, delivery trucks can attach to that and drive for a couple kilometers, getting recharged, and then go back to driving, so they can extend the range of the battery. So they're still primarily battery, but they can get some extra juice without stopping. So that's kind of an interesting way to extend the range. And you don't have to do this, like this induction thing. It seems like you would need it all over the place.
That'd be cool if they did it on the freeway.
We know that typically induction type charging solutions that are put in people's driveways or parking spots at home or at businesses, they usually can take less power in because they are traveling through a piece of air to the induction plate in a car. So there's usually some loss. So yeah, I'm not really sure. Obviously, with this investment, they're going to check out all the facts and figures, but and they will probably check out how much juice they have to pump into the road to collect what in a car and what percentage is lost and all that. But yeah, and the other thing I could say is that as Patrick had mentioned about the overhead wires in Europe, maybe they're thinking that maybe they'd only do 5 miles of road, and that would be a designated charging spot on the far right-hand side of the road or something. That could be an idea as well. But yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to work. But I don't oppose it being tried.
Right.
It's just certainly let's not roll it into a full solution until we know the facts and figures and can figure out if it makes sense or not.
I know that one in go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying that basically this is a testing ground and it's going to be hard to figure out if it's going to work. I don't necessarily believe that this is the best place to test it. It probably would be better tested off in some place like not so much northern Arizona. I've been out there. It gets a lot of snow, but maybe mid to southern Arizona. But if there's one thing government agencies are fond of, it is definitely testing things out in public private partnerships that have mediocre return on investment. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if it was going to be a high return on investment, they wouldn't even need the government involved.
This
Right.
is true. It's very
It's-
true.
Yeah, we foot a lot of R&D bills.
Is that true though?
Oh yeah, so I mean, the whole
All the
reason
time.
to have a public-private partnership is so that you can get additional funding that it wouldn't otherwise be profitable, and if things go wrong, they're the fallback to bail you out.
I don't know. I'm. Let's just say I'm suspicious of the market solutions. A lot of times we push that talk, yet it doesn't always pick the right thing or help us develop the right things. We've got to. Sometimes we have to have an outside, non-capitalist motivated authority to determine where we need to go.
Well, let's be blunt.
Sounds like
We
you guys said the
wouldn't
same
have,
thing there.
but we wouldn't have this internet without
Yeah.
a cost loss that was DARPA.
Yeah.
It took
Still
a
is DARPA.
long, yeah, it took a long time for the internet to be profitable. Yet, and the one mistake we always make, especially with things like TV and broadcast, is that this was all military tech or government tech that got turned into public sector capitalist dealings, and we never get a return on investment that actually suits what has been made off of it. So too many people get their fees and their portions of return waived to make sure that they're able to make a profit. They're in the billions. We think they've made a profit. Pay your damn taxes. But so I kind of agree with Russell there. It's just that be suspicious of all of it. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's a cool experiment. We've seen, I think we reported earlier last year that several of these experiments had failed pretty spectacularly. I want to say one was in France, maybe.
France,
But
California.
But again, I think Detroit's a great test ground for it. Extreme weather, it's certainly worth exploring, and we can afford to explore this.
Yeah, and there are a couple auto manufacturers around there.
Yeah,
They're
and it
really?
would benefit
No,
them
none-
tremendously.
None that are important, Patrick. Let's be
Actually,
realistic.
Ford is part of the program.
They are.
Yeah.
Legacy company. Who cares?
So the one that Siemens is involved in Germany. Everybody was paying attention to when we covered that one. The arm that comes up, it gets really close to the power line, and it tracks. And if you go too far off, it comes down and disconnects. So that's with basically, it's still induction, but it's so close it might as well be conduction. Now you're going to have the magnets in the road, and the drivers are going to have to drive properly over the coils rather than that automated system. So it'll be interesting to see how effective it can be. Because like Mark said, if it's not perfectly lined up and it's too high up, your rates decrease substantially.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for that story, Mark, because it's interesting. We'll track it, and unlike a lot of other news centers, I guess, a news media, we'll follow up on it maybe. Yeah.
See if
We
it
tend
actually
to follow up on stuff.
We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
We can be tenacious when we want to be, can't we?
Maybe the parking part will work and the driving part won't. We'll find out.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I mean, I could see where an induction on highways in certain locations might work, but again, it's so early in that development. We don't have cars that are charged that way. We don't have a lot of cars that are charged that way, I should say.
You could combine it with some sort of lane centering and pacing, and then these people can just goof off on their phones while they're on the highway, and the car will charge itself. And then when they get off the highway, they can
We're
drive.
doing that anyways, Casey.
What drives us does not recommend you goof off on your phone.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that they do. I'm suggesting that
We will never.
it could be
suggest-
autonomous.
The
That you
attorney
goof
said
off
we
on
disavow
your-
everything that Casey just said.
No, I'm
We don't
not
disavow
saying.
Casey. Just what he said.
I'm suggesting that it could be an autonomous charging roadway, and then they get two things at one. Yeah.
It could
What
be
drives
ADAS.
us does not recommend you goof off on your phone, even on an autonomous driveway, just to be safe.
Because those
Casey-
don't exist
Casey
yet.
was
Other than
being amusing.
Well, I meant like level 4, like certified, all that, but it's not going to
We
happen.
do not recommend that.
These vehicles do not exist at this time, Casey Green.
well, unless you're a passenger on a bus, and then goof off on your phone. all
Goof
you
off
want.
on your phone as much as you want if you are riding the bus, not driving the bus. What drives
Right.
us does
Or the
not
train.
recommend bus drivers goof off.
No,
on
but
the
Casey,
phone.
you did bring up a good point. If this worked with a lane centering system, which could be level 2, where the driver's still engaged, but it centers the car so that it gets maximum charging alignment, that to reduce losses, that's a good idea.
Well, the truth is that we have high occupancy vehicle lanes. It might be just put in another lane, convert a lane from from standard to charging lane.
Yeah,
That
you
you
have
could
high
pull
occupancy
into.
lane and then the high voltage lane.
And some people maybe should be in the high voltage lane, even if they don't have an electric car. I'm just saying.
Why is AC/DC playing in my head?
Yes. Thunder.
Thank you. And on that note, let's talk about a different kind of charging. Let's go to Georgia McKenzie, who has another story on charging etiquette.
Okay, so let's call this human behavior strikes again. You pull up to your charging station. There's a car that's already there charging. Fine, but it looks like it's done, and the driver is not present. But your
Don't
car
touch other people's cars.
your car your car desperately needs to be charged. What's the etiquette here? Well, there was a situation that happened where a Nissan and Hyundai Hyundai Ioniq charger pulled up to a Genie Point. Hyundai Ioniq owner pulled up to a Genie Point charger, needed to use it. So he saw Leaf was there, but it was not charging. He checked to see if it was flashing, because I guess it's like my toothbrush. When you need a charge, it flashes. And it wasn't flashing. It seemed to be fully charged, just abandoned but plugged in. So he unplugged it. And death threats and fights ensued because we can't handle anything. We're very highly evolved simians, with at least where it comes to our tools, but we're not very evolved mentally, it seems. So what's the etiquette? Hey,
For starters, the blinky lights are not standard. So, like on my Volt, blinking meant it was done, but on a Leaf, that meant it was not done.
True.
but here's the thing. Now, in a way, I kind of respect the man's point, because you're charging and you walk away. They have no idea where you are. It's the sole charger access. And guess what? There are other people on the road. This is a lot like that person that uses the washing machine and the dryer and leaves their stuff in the dryer. Like, you don't know when they're coming back, and it's the only dryer in the unit. Now my thing is, maybe we do need to talk a little bit about etiquette, because as Kacey rightly pointed out, each car has a different methodology for whether it's charging or not charging. And the other side of it is that, okay, maybe we need to have, it's not just that we need to have more, but what do we do to prevent this kind of thing? Because literally it's a discussion of an escalation. It's not just him. There's increased amounts of charger range. What is wrong with people?
Well, there's one thing that could have helped from the manufacturer. I've seen this on some BMWs and a couple others. They put a sticker next to the charge port that has a decoder ring for the lights. So that at the very least, if you've been there for an hour and the lights say it's full, then you don't feel as bad if you are tempted to touch the car. Don't touch other people's cars. But if you're tempted to, you at least know that they're not going to get a charging interrupted text
See,
message.
all I'm thinking when you say decoder ring is drink more Ovaltine.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
This is a topic we've discussed many times on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And to date, no one has come out with some kind of definitive, even agreed upon by a small minority group of people, charging etiquette tips. Everybody has opinions, and there's lots of stuff around. But really, what
Robot
is
snake charger and parking lot autopilot. It'll just move itself when it's done. If it's empty, you're good to plug in.
Or if everyone could agree upon using an app like PlugShare, where you're able to put in a message and say, "Call me if you need it because I'm charging." And
I've seen people do it too.
Yes, but that's that's everyone using the same app, and
right.
Of course we can't mandate that. You pull electric car drivers half the time, and they'll say, "What's PlugShare?" So
Right.
there's problems with that. I've seen other solutions where people have left a card. They've traveled with a card. It's almost like a miniature whiteboard, and they just put their phone number on it and they stick it right to the charger area. So anyone that comes up to it can see the message that they've left. I'm coming back in an hour, or call me if you need it, if urgent need is required. Like
right.
But again, not everybody travels with that. So I remember in the early days when I had an electric car back in 2012, I used to actually I had a notepad with my telephone number and said, "Call me if you need the charge," and I just put it in the front windshield dash when I plugged in the car and left it. So it was locked inside the car. It could be seen from the dashboard through the window, and I never received a call, but it was always there if someone needed a charge. But at this point, there's far more electric cars, and I'm afraid to say that in a lot of city areas, that infrastructure of L2s hasn't increased that dramatically to keep up with the amount of EVs that are now hitting the road. So
some have been removed.
I can see why charger rage is going to become an issue.
And it's incredible to me how is there nothing people cannot blow up into a rage about?
Yeah,
nothing. Absolute. I mean, I've had this situation once in my stupidly small town where somebody literally parked next to me and parked so close it was maybe a foot between the door and my car door, the only door I could actually unlock the car and get into, between them, that and the other car. Room everywhere. Pulled in such a tight diagonal, I couldn't get in. I was stuck there for an hour and a half waiting for them to come back. I managed to find a very small, skinny person. Thank you, tiny, skinny elfin lunch. She managed to fit herself in. She's like a little tiny 5'2" woman who slid in there and worked the key and managed to open the door so I could go into the other side and get into my car. I could not even twist the key. And I didn't go into a rage. I was pissed, but what would getting into a rage happen? So it's like, when people calm down, literally, this is not life or death, because the last story I saw was Mayo rage, where two friends got into such a bad fight in a drunken rage over Mayo that one of them hit his friend, backed up and ran him over twice and killed him over Mayo, which is just like, it's mayonnaise, dude. Not that serious. Mayonnaise.
No.
So I don't want to see that kind of anger over charging. And if we're already at the point where people are tossing death threats, I think we kind of have to develop some form of standardized etiquette until the infrastructure actually starts matching the increase in electric cars. So, because although I'm laughing at it, no, we don't want to see that, because people and Americans are also far more armed. This was said in England, but Americans are armed, and I don't know how to say this in a polite fashion,
There isn't a way.
intensely unstable.
We've seen it come to fistfights at superchargers and other level 2 chargers,
Yeah.
and
We fought over toilet paper at the start of the pandemic.
it's true too.
Let's just imagine this happens in Texas. Thank you.
Well,
That's all I had to say, isn't it?
when you're worried that the other person is armed, you're going to be polite.
No, you know,
Yeah,
I
but
wish that
that's not true.
I would like to see
Right.
when that armed society is a polite society thing is the biggest load of bupkis. So because and we should be even more worried as some states now are putting forward with laws that will deputize people who get gun licenses. So the minute you get your gun license to open carry or whatnot, you're deputized as a
That's
peace
ridiculous.
officer, which means your killings are now authorized. I can't see how that could go poorly, could I?
No, not
No,
at
what could
all.
go wrong?
So we had to work this out back in the days when I went into the office. There were only a few level 2 chargers at work, and we had a really good system where several of us had those cards, and there was the green side and the red side. You can get these from Plug in America. Just look for EV card, and you can put your phone number on there. And if you need to charge, then you put the red side up that says "Don't unplug." And if you're just opportunity charging, you have the green side up that says "Okay to unplug." And then you've given someone permission to touch your car and unplug it, and so they can do that. And most of the chargers, at least the ones on the ends, you could charge at either of the parking spots, so that allowed for a little more access.
See, I think those are good ideas right there. You and Mark.
And then the other thing we did was we had an internal website where we all posted pictures of our cars and our phone numbers and our license plates. So if I got there and I needed to plug in and there was no spot that I could get to, I could just go to that site and look for which car's there. Oh, hey, this one's got Mark there. I'll just call Mark. Hey, Mark, I need to charge. Can you come move your car? Yeah,
That is so un-Canadian of you, Mark.
So that was how we handled it there. And since I'm here, I'm going to plug my blog, carswithquarters.net. I wrote up 5 rules that I think everybody should follow. And some of it came from the discussion we had when Chelsea was on the show. So the first rule is first come, first serve, period. There was some debate that EVs should have priority over plug-in hybrids because plug-in hybrids have a gas backup and blah, blah, blah. And some EV owners felt like they could just unplug a plug-in hybrid whenever they want. That's BS. If you just wait your turn. The second one is that people should move as soon as they have enough. Now, you don't have to always get to all the way full. If you only need half a charge to get home and you've got more than that with a little buffer, go move your car and open up that spot for somebody else if there's any kind of contention for it. This third rule, always have a plan B. You should not be dependent on one particular spot, and if you can't plug in there, you're doomed and not going to make it to where you need to get to. There are, depending on where you're at, always alternatives. Maybe if that alternative could even be a campground or a 120 outlet at some friend's house nearby, whatever, have a backup. The fourth rule is that you are only entitled to charge at a station if you're the one that owns it. Other than that, you're using someone else's property and you need to follow their rules. And you might, if you're going to some random place, don't just assume you can plug in your car. You should ask them about it and offer to pay for it and negotiate. Don't be an entitled jerk. Offer them, go buy a 6-pack and offer them a couple of them, whatever. And the fifth rule is be nice. You being friendly, honey attracts a lot more than vinegar. I mean, it's just that's the way to get through life, in my opinion. There you go, 5 rules.
So I'm not gonna lie, I do get annoyed when I get to a place and there's a Gen 1 Prius plug-in there. But you don't ever see me even attempt to look at and unplug it. But when I know that they can charge in an hour at that particular spot and they're there for 3 hours, that's rather annoying. Because not only did they not charge more than they needed, they left it there after it was full.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, Russell, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think we could probably come up with a million ways to be annoyed. And the problem is that we're really, really fucking shitty at sharing. We're really terrible about anyone. We've become grossly paranoid about property. Don't touch my property. Even if you're not going to hurt it, even if the person had no intention of causing any harm or couldn't possibly cause any harm, don't touch my property. It's mine, even if it's parked in public.
Well, that's just because there have been people that take that too far. Oh, I'm going to sit in your hood and take a selfie. And
Right.
So you
Leave
have to
riveted
draw the line.
scratches.
Right, dented hoods, whatever. Yeah. If there weren't people that ruined it for everybody else, I think we would maybe be more accepting. But there are people that ruin it.
I'm going to disagree with Patrick in a very uncharacteristic statement from me, in that I don't think it's just about a minority wrecking it for the rest of us. I think that we've become a mostly really selfish, short-sighted, pretty fucking angry and ready to fucking fight at a heartbeat for nothing kind of society. Now, you can expand that society to cover the world or the planet or the state or whatever. I don't care. In general, I'm shocked at the lack of just willingness to live in a society with other humans by the people I see every day. I'd love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong.
Yeah.
So-
I'm not going to disagree with that.
So
That's all I got.
before I ever had a Tesla, a long time ago, when they were only making the Roadster, I went to a Tesla meetup, and I was shocked at exactly the opposite. How much they were like, "Oh yeah, have a seat, try it out. You want to take it for a ride around the block?" I mean, it was so depending on what clique you're in, your mileage may vary.
Absolutely. And again, within your own tribe, things are usually good. It's when somebody's outside of that group that things can get ugly. I mean, we've had people shoot people for playing music too loud. Shoot
Yes.
and kill them.
Well,
Okay?
what kind of music? No, I'm kidding.
Good comeback, Patrick. Exactly.
Well,
myself now. I'm sorry.
and in a way, I wish I could laugh, but I do know exactly what kind of music or what happened in that.
Yeah,
situation.
you know
So,
exactly what I'm talking about there.
Yeah.
Let's go. Speaking of Patrick, let's talk about charging, or let's talk about electric travel of a different type, a type that I dearly love. Although, honestly, Patrick, I'm very interested to hear your take on the story because I don't see how this makes any damn sense at all.
Yeah, okay. So we all know about battery-powered cars and trucks. There's also battery-powered planes, helicopters, and even tugboats. But here's one thing that I'd never considered as battery electric. Trains? That's right, trains. Union Pacific, according to this article, has just agreed to buy 20 battery electric freight locomotives in a deal worth more than $100 million. These are going to be used to sort and move cars in rail yards in California and Nebraska. And then this article also said something I didn't know, that California has already been testing battery electric locomotives. And in these tests, what they did was they paired them with an existing diesel, because often you have to use two engines to get a long enough chain done. So this effectively becomes a hybrid vehicle, in that you've got the diesel and you have the battery there. They're each doing their part of the work, but if either one breaks down, the other one can still chug along, at least to limp to the next station. So I assumed that this was not going to happen anytime soon, like a decade out at least. And if you wanted to have, well, I mean, like we have light rail here, and they use overhead lines, so that way you don't have to have batteries on board, and you know exactly where the trains are going to go on the tracks. So you could electrify those a whole lot easier than an induction road, for example. Or the other thing, cough, would be hydrogen fuel cells. That trains are a solution where that might actually make sense, because you know exactly where they're going to go, you know how far, you know what they're going to be pulling, you know where the stations need to be to refuel them. And I would take, even though I'm not a fan of hydrogen, I would take that any day over diesel. Diesel locomotives spew greenhouse gases, particulate matter, other toxic pollutants into the air, and this decreases people's lifespan, increases their medical costs. So anyway, this was an interesting test case for batteries that I didn't think we would be seeing for a long time. So it's interesting that it's here. And again, it's just a test. This is not like, oh, all trains will be battery powered tomorrow, but this is going to help push the technology. And we've seen battery capacity improving by about 7 to 10% per year. We've got all kinds of breakthroughs that are still coming. There's hype about solid state batteries and other things, and we will be seeing those this decade in some form, I'm sure, and that'll open up new avenues. So it's really interesting. I thought it was cool. I wanted to mention it.
Yeah.
And of course, this is a system for testing in a yard. So this is like the shuttle engine that's moving other cars to create the long train to be pulled out. And what an ideal situation, because it's always in the yard. It's not too far away from the charging infrastructure that's in the yard. So yeah,
Right.
that makes complete sense. And of course, since it's not running, typically yards are just outside of cities. So it's not sitting there burning diesel, constantly moving cars around to create the long trains and keep all the pollution in one spot. It'll burn nothing.
Right,
it's
and those
quiet,
stops
too.
and starts are where diesel would be the least efficient. So it's replacing the least efficient with zero emission. That's awesome.
Well, I'm pretty excited about this. I mean, I think this is a great move forward, especially when you consider one of our biggest issues is carbon and logistics. Moving stuff around is one of our biggest environmental pollutants. Between our shipping and our trucking and trains, we've got to do something, because there is a limit to what we can do to improve things with just personal cars. And personal cars, although no offense to my honored and esteemed panelists here, that's not a solution. A solution is actually better public transportation and better logistics methods. But so these are huge steps, because we're lagging really far behind on this part of the environmental sustainability equation. So it's a good step forward. Wish it was more.
Right.
Well, Patrick, I got to tell you, I mean, I get it, especially as a test. The thing that confused me was, why are we going to put batteries on something where we know where it can only follow one path?
Mm-hmm.
And we could easily string electrical cable, you know what I mean? And they could charge. I could see like a hybrid system where they're charging and there's some batteries, maybe where you don't want to have the charging cable, you know, that. But whatever, you know, as you say, less diesel, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that? No argument. I almost agree with you, Patrick. No, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's probably cheaper to put a battery on each locomotive than it is to electrify the whole yard.
Yeah, it certainly were something like that with multiple tracks. I was thinking more of like freight lines and
I was too first.
And things. Well, speaking of that, let's go to Kacey, who has his own take on something that has nothing to do with trains. At least I don't think so. No,
it could affect trains, but
it could affect trains.
I was thinking,
train of thought.
So mine just derailed.
There were a couple of recalls this last week that affected the three of us here. No, there wasn't one today that I know of, was there?
Yeah, I had 28,000 for something I don't remember, but yeah, another.
Oh, the Hyundais and the batteries and the fires and all that. But no, we're talking stuff that can be fixed with software updates, and depending on how manufacturer of choice is organized. For instance, if they don't have a dealer network, they can update the whole car over the air if they choose to. Some of them still choose to only update the software over the air and then leave the firmware for other methods. But if they have a dealer network, they are much less likely to be able to push fixes, either if the car's capable or not, via over the air updates, because either it's a state requirement or a dealer franchise agreement that repairs cannot be performed except by a dealer. So the only thing that they can fix on those particular cars are stuff in the head unit. Everything else that they add is either an addition, something new that the car didn't do before, or like for instance the 2020 Porsche Taycan. They did have some new features, but they also had some fixes. So in order to get this over-the-air update, you had to bring it into the dealer who plugged in a drive to the car who does your update. And this one was free, but say the next one, if they offer another one, it might not be free because you pay for everything on a Porsche. But and this is excluding unlockables like on the Tesla where you can unlock speed, or rear heated seats, or the BMW where you can rent the heated seats. We're talking just fixes over the air, and I wanted to bring to the group a discussion on this whole situation.
Yeah, so there was a software update for the Leaf when I owned it, and of course, when I went into the dealership to get it, they're going to try to upsell me on everything else and how I need to have my power steering fluid changed and whatever other things they want to upsell. So the dealers want customers to come in, and that's one way they make a lot of their revenue. So they don't want just to be cut out of that loop and have everything happen over the air. That's one less reason for you to go visit them, one less chance for them to upsell you.
Yeah. But my other point, I wanted to do this while Paul was here. Unfortunately, he's traveling. Is if I had a bad experience with my dealer, but I have a Paul that I do trust with my car and I have a good relationship with, even he can't do the updates unless I'm out of warranty and it's long gone. And even then, they might not put it on his third-party software network where he can download it and push it to my car, unless it's part of an engine swap or something like that, or motor swap, obviously in these cases. And that just further rubbed in all of that whole I got to drive my car in for something that I could just go start or plug in a USB, like for the Ford sync system. They would sometimes mail you a USB that you could plug in to fix the head unit, but not the rest of the car.
Right. Yeah, the dealerships have a lock there. I mean, they have agreements with the car manufacturers that say we own all maintenance under warranty and you can't cut us out of that. And depending on what state you're in, that lock is stronger or not.
See, I have a huge question there because didn't the right to repair law just pass? What the heck happened?
And that opens it up a little bit, but it still doesn't open it up all the way. Like I can't do it at home unless I can get the software from somebody in the Michigan jurisdiction or Michigan.
Vermont.
Vermont, yeah, that's the one. And same thing with the downloads from Paul. Is there's still a little bit of a lock on it depending on where we are. That's why Rich Rebuilds is able to do what he's able to do where he is, even though manufacturer of choice for them doesn't want anybody touching their stuff.
See, that kind of ticks me off as a person who, at least back in the day, I would like upgrade even my laptop and do it myself. I have my tools. I knew what I wanted to do. I don't need to take it into Apple to fix it. I can crack the case and do my drive replacements and my RAM and things like that. I don't need that crap.
So I've got 2 servers in here for stuff, and one of them, they're both the same manufacturer. One of them is I can bring in my own drives, my own RAM. Well, they don't like you to put your own RAM, but I can bring in my own RAM, own drives. The new one, if I put in a drive they don't like, it might not even run correctly. Like it'll take it, it'll put the data on it, but it won't tell me that it's about to die. It'll just die first, and then by the way, drive 6 failed. And then the one up from mine, if you don't buy the drives from them, it does not work at all. It won't even turn on.
That's ridiculous.
Same manufacturer.
A lot of people wonder why I keep my tank, which is my desktop machine. Well, it could not fit or last on a desktop. It's about 50 pounds, and that's with nothing in it. It's all metal. It's an old Alienware, but it's got 6 drive bays, and I can put whatever I need to into it and take whatever I need to out. And all I did was upgrade the graphics card and the processor and the drives. And look, there it is, a big old metal box running fine.
Mhm.
And for me, I bought it. You don't have a right to tell me what the hell to do with it after I bought it.
My John Deere tractor, not me personally, but you know.
Yeah.
Mhm,
John
mhm.
Deere's
I was just like, you have a John Deere tractor? It's a little tractor.
let's be clear again. This is not to. We're going to keep talking about this, and I'm going to keep saying this, but this is something we've talked about for a long time. The right to repair, OTA updates. What does that do? What rights do you have? I'm sure that we could have a long discussion about the efficacy of bringing your own jump drive and how bad or good that could be. I think that kind of misses the point, which is, what do you have to go through to, once you own a product, what do you have to go through to get parts for it, to get software for it? What rights do you have to repair or upgrade that item that you bought?
Right.
All of which has been obscured somewhat by some of our really horrible intellectual property laws, which tells us that music that you bought, for instance, you don't really own it. You're licensing it.
Yeah, that really bothers me because
Okay. Right. But
I
wait,
own
here's the other side of that idiot coin, right? The morons that bought that Dune book with Bitcoin for like, what was it, $1 billion or some stupid.
it was they bought like a couple of $1 million. They bought a Dune book, and they presumed that it gave them the IP for Dune itself.
Right.
Which was
Well, for
just
this
had a movie
production,
come out.
Right.
It was I forgot who it was.
Jodorowsky.
Yeah, Jodorowsky's Dune, and it's like, no, you absolute Nimrod. All you bought was a book that literally you could have gotten used for about $50-$60.
Suffice to say, our legislators aren't really well equipped to deal with this, and they need to be. And it needs to be a discussion between intelligent people, not just legislators, God, not lobbyists.
Oh, yeah.
Not, you know what I mean? And not just activists who may have another agenda which doesn't necessarily benefit what you and Kacey.
I have another example. So today they just launched the new Samsung Galaxy phone, and they are guaranteeing 4 years of upgrades. So if it's got Android 12 on it now, it'll come with Android 16 by the time they're done with it. And then at the moment, Samsung has an unlock program where you can then put regular Linux on it, and they'll help you do it, or they'll give you the instructions anyway. But at the same time, you've got a 2012 Model S. It's still getting updates today, but they've slowed down now by a lot. So what happens when Tesla is wash their hands of you? What do you do? It's running Linux. Green the Only is constantly complaining that they haven't published their source code or their what libraries and stuff they're using like they're supposed to. Like when you use free software and it's in the license, that yeah, you can use it, but you need to say, use Joe Blow's stuff. Where's the notice that you use Joe Blow's stuff?
All I can say is I don't like this this trend of, you may have bought this item, but you don't really own this item.
You own some atoms. You don't own software. It doesn't have to work.
Yeah, you don't own that thing. You can't do what you need to do. And I think that's something I definitely. Hey, excuse me. I don't own anything. I have a cat.
The cat owns everything. Yeah. I mean, again, this is stuff that we need to work out. We just need to come to an agreement. Hey, here's what this means. Here's what this is. And then everybody can follow those rules and work within them, knowing them.
Yeah.
Patrick, I'm surprised you don't have an especially strong opinion here.
We're just going to move to a world where you don't get to buy things. You have to
lease everything.
Yeah, everything will be on subscription. To them. Yeah. Not even the clothes on your back. You have to have a clothing subscription.
Well, I mean, look at how much music I've bought in the last couple of years. I did just buy a tray of Blu-rays, but I have been renting my music for the longest now.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I just dumped Spotify and went to another music service that will remain nameless.
See,
because they'll do something atrocious soon anyway.
And meanwhile, you know what I do? I buy my music off Google, and then I download everything and I store it on my drives because I like my stuff. It's the one time I'm a hoarder: books and music.
I understand.
Someone come digitize all my tapes, please.
Kacey, thank you for that. That is definitely an ongoing discussion, and we're going to, we'll be updating that as news and legislation and whatnot happens. I mean, it's so in a development period for this. It would be nice if things were all worked out and clean and nice and easy, but like that charging etiquette, nah, it's the Wild West.
But even worse, because now there's big money behind this one.
Yeah. Georgia has one final story for us. Georgia, what the heck and why Tennessee?
Hey.
Hey. Oh, wait, we lost all our viewers in Tennessee? Damn it.
Tennessee.
All 5.
Yeah.
Hey, no, mostly, why not Tennessee? Like,
Mr.
good
Wendell.
stuff happening. And we getting on my voting platform and advocacy platform, there are no red states. There are oppressed states. We're voting. We're voting.
States that haven't revolted yet.
Voting is suppressed, and where voters are oppressed, because southern states are often where our largest component of Black voters are, which means that they're not accurately being able to get out and vote and flex their power. Back to the story, though, because let's end on a happy, uplifting note, damn it. You know why? Because although stuff does suck, a lot of stuff does not suck. It's just that it's human nature to focus right on what sucks. So there is a new EV charger plant that's going to be built in Tennessee. Tritium is trying to make, they're hoping to put out 30,000 chargers annually. So, hey, put down your fists, put down your weapons. We're going to have more chargers out there, hopefully. And it's going to be made right here in the good old US of A. And those of you who are regular viewers know my mantra is make it here, put the jobs here, build the infrastructure here, build the job market here. It's a very important part of this economy and building a sustainable way. So President Biden was out there announcing this. It's Tritium DCFC Limited will build a U.S. manufacturing facility in Tennessee, and he said it should have a ripple effect. But let's speak in terms that are more likely to happen. He's hoping that it will have a ripple effect that will benefit workers and the planet as a whole. How will it benefit workers? Well, hopefully they don't pull at IKEA and get rid of all their good benefits and good pay that they pay people out in Australia and take advantage of the, let's put it bluntly, tragic tendencies of southern states to have no worker protections and not so great wages. Hopefully we're talking good wages, good protections, maybe even a union. I don't know. I'm just pro-union. What do you want from me? So this is hopefully going to be 30,000 electric vehicle chargers annually and 500 jobs. The Tritium Chief Executive Officer, Jane Hunter, said her company decided to invest more heavily in American operations after seeing the demand surge following the passage of the big effing deal, the Biden infrastructure package last year. So ripple effect definitely came out of that legislation. And what happened in that legislation where they talked about plan to have more chargers, the plan to buy more EV vehicles for their own government fleets, and to lean heavily into EVs for sustainability overall. That's a natural consequence. That's what we call supply chain and things that improve all of those important considerations, such as the environment, jobs, local manufacture, and just general goodwill all around. I'm all for it. So I'm enjoying this part. What do you guys think?
I've had good experience using tritium chargers, so bring it on.
Bring it on.
Yeah, the ripple effects. They're going to have suppliers, so they're going to have to bring them parts. Those are going to have to be delivered. That's another job. Then those charging stations are going to have to be installed once they're made. There's electrician work there, and yeah, so there's definitely ripple effects.
Testing and maintenance.
Well, let's see. We got the national network of at least 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations by the end of the decade. The infrastructure law, which has the 65 billion for upgrades to the nation's electrical grid, 7 billion to bolster the supply chain for electric vehicles, and 7.5 billion just for charging stations. Still waiting to hear back from my own local city's sustainability coordinator about what if they know anything about how that funding's going to work. So don't worry, I haven't forgotten that one. The first 5 billion in funding, charging station funding, is expected to be distributed over the next 5 days. So that money is heading out. And you're going to see the federal government designating corridors along the interstate highway system. So drivers like Mark and Kacey, when they decide they want a hypermile, you should keep an eye out for that. So we'll find that out. So the DOJ, the DOE, not the DOJ, estimates there are about 122,000 EV chargers right now at 48,000 locations worldwide. So that is that. I figured, what the hell? Let's end with some good news about chargers, since I started you off with fisticuffs at the charging station.
See, that's beautiful. We can all kind of hug this out and move on. No, we can't. Let's do some
Don't touch
shout-outs
me.
and go home. Thank you, Georgia. That was a nice way to end the show. I appreciate that. Let me start with Kacey Green. I'm pointing to the screen as though he can see me, right?
Right.
He has no
I can
idea.
see you. I
who
just
I'm
can't see that
pointing
you're pointing at me.
Yeah. Kacey, I'm pointing at you. Come on, Kacey. Kacey. Oh my
So
God.
I've got a couple of good videos coming up. One is the aforementioned modding of the Model X. Another is I've got all sorts of FSD beta 10.9 videos. I know 10.10 is out now, but oh well. I've got the FSD beta 10.9 vanilla with new maps, and then in the rain. And they'll be all coming out at youtube.com/Kacey Green, KACYGREEN.
Visit
Hope to catch you on the
Casey's
flip
site.
side.
Oh, I'm sorry. Visit Casey's
No.
site. Do like and subscribe. It's okay. Oh, there we go. I got some. I asked for show titles in the public chat and in the private chat. There's stuff all over there. Of course, Patrick has always got a list of fantastic
Stuff I own
titles,
it.
most of which we never share with the public. I'll leave you to ponder why and how.
Hey, Patrick's got his thinking cap on all the time.
All the time. That's
All the time.
the nice thing about Patrick. Well, speaking of Patrick, Mr. Connor, what's going on?
Not much. I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net, and I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and we're going to have a meeting tomorrow. And we're doing them online now, so come join our mailing list. And if you're in the greater Portland area, you can hang out with us in person if this pandemic ever ends.
We're just going to pretend it ends.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
it's some
That's
point.
the latest.
the pretend end date is coming very, very soon, kids. Yeah. Mr. Coughlin, what's up in your world?
Well, I would like to say, if you haven't already, please help What Drives Us Out by giving us a thumbs up on this video, pressing the subscribe button if you haven't already, and follow us on our socials. All you need to do is look up What Drives Us, and we will be there. Russell started up his new TikTok dance move, so you can check that out.
Wait.
And
It's not true.
Sorry.
Mark's lying.
I want that to happen so bad. No.
it has started. The Russell dance party is underway.
There it is.
Very good, very good. So help us out there, and we would certainly appreciate it. Helps us get more eyeballs on the show, and you're helping us out. So why not?
Why not? I'll tell you what. No. There you go, Patrick. You got a winner. Georgia McKenzie, what's any shout outs?
I have a ton of shout outs. You know why? Look at this marvelous panel. Look at all the things they do. Don't forget, you want to head on over to the Tesla Life. you want to stop by, say hi to Mark, listen to him, know all things Tesla, give you all the information on his show. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe. You know you want that good content. Kacey, of course, I keep telling you guys this. Nobody's stopping him. He is helping the AI get smarter so they can take over the world. And, I'm actually not opposed to it because look at us. We kind of need some help. Go, Kacey, fix that AI.
I
Head
hope it
on
likes
over to
natural oil.
it probably does. Organic. So head on over to Kacey Green's channel, hit like, hit subscribe. Watch him train that car to follow him around like a puppy and probably fight things. See him in the next D&D game channel with his robot car. And while you're at it, you know what? Head on over to cardswithcords.net. Take a look at Patrick's 5 rules for etiquette. I think we should be maybe making that very publicly available as he has and push it a heavy amount because it seems we kind of need a little help to understand. We use our words. We don't use our fists. And no, we don't have to cuss anybody out either. We can just use normal words. Somebody's going to say, but you said use your words, and it's just going to be like a sailor talk episode. What is wrong with you? Just say please and thank you. So head on over to carswithcords.net and why not hang around a little bit at that meeting, get to know the Oregon Electric Car Association. You might find that they are cool people, even if you're not in Portland, Oregon, and they are a great resource, especially Patrick, to talk about all things cars with cords, as well as how he manages to do everything in his house based with solar and batteries. Because I know if I ever wind up in a house with solar and batteries, I'm just going to go, Patrick, what happened? Something wall. I myself would like to give all my shout outs to all of those Olympic athletes out there busting their humps, trying to just do their best while they're over there for their country, but mostly for themselves. And also a big smack upside the head to every single announcer who keeps mentioning people's ages like, you're 32, you should be in a doddering old folks home. Thanks a lot, announcer. While you're at it, go soak your head and put it outside. Thank you very much. Back to you, Russell.
Nothing but yes, let me amplify George's message. Let's say thank you, as always, to Michael Manring for his amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Please buy a song, buy an album, buy all the albums. They're all good. And support Michael since he's supported this show since it started. I want to thank Georgia McKenzie, Kacey Green, Mark Coughlin, and, of course, my friend Patrick Connor for being on this show, making it so good. I want to thank Sharon, David, JT, Zach, everybody in the chat. Who did I miss? I don't think I missed anybody, but thanks for being in the chat. We do have a live chat, which you can participate in. You can send us messages, obscene or otherwise, while we record. Ask us questions. Sometimes we even mention it during the show. Yeah, Kacey, I'm kind of daring them to just be completely unhinged.
And if you want to see Russell dance, please let us know what kind of dances. No, Russell, stop. Not while I can see. Oh, yes. While we're at it, Russell, we are making plans for that whole mini series on government activism. And so if you have any key questions on stuff like what is the difference between my city government and my county government versus the state? What should I do if I want to go to a meeting and advocate? No, I am not tangoing with him, David. I will tango with my cat. But how do you advocate? How can you handle public comment? Just any kind of questions you've got, don't forget to send that in to us. We'll try to come up with a plan and some dates and times. It will not be on a Wednesday, but we will try to make that available to you once we get the planning done. I'm a little swamped right now because I accepted a contract on a podcast series based on my own IP, and I've been writing nonstop for about a month and a half to get a series together. Cool. But afterwards, I promise I'll put this together.
It'll happen. That's all I want to say. And of course, we do the show for you. So thanks to all of you for watching. We appreciate it very much. Tune in next week and find out what drives us. a good week, everybody.
They found it. That's negative.